and a very warm welcome to your English news package with radio and television Tonga for the hour. Making headlines, Acting Prime Minister clarifies that allegations made by 3 U.S. citizens in Vava'u on social media are false and misleading to the public. Tonga Police Commissioner presents credentials to the King, and farmers and large companies in New Zealand still need more Tongans to work for them. Now with the news in details. The Acting Prime Minister Honourable Boasi Day clarified yesterday that allegations made by 3 U.S. citizens at Vava'u on social media video postings and interviews are false and misleading. Honourable Boasi Day was referring to social media interviews by Jonathan Brent Estrin, a U.S. citizen who has been residing in Vava'u since 2012. Mark Ake with the details.
In a press release from the government, it was revealed that the Attorney General's office conducted an investigation into the claims that were made, and the government received advice from the Attorney General, Linda Folamoitui. Estrin had claimed on video interviews that he and his colleagues were being prevented from leaving Vava'u by the Ministry of Health and were being held ransom because they were told to pay 11,000 pa'anga for COVID-19 vaccination shots. He also claimed that His Majesty King Tupou VI had granted them approval to bring in a chartered flight to Vava'u that would fly them to America. Estrin also claimed that Civil Aviation Tonga threatened to confiscate the chartered aircraft and imprison the operators if they landed in Tonga, and that Tonga was not fit for anyone to live in. They also told Radio and Television Tonga News that the reports were inaccurate, and it is obvious, after checking that with all stakeholders involved, that the passengers did not go through the proper procedures, nor did they get proper authorization, and it is unclear why they are demanding that the plane lands at Nuku'alofa Airport when the only authorized airport at entry at the moment is at the Fomotu International Airport here in Tongatapu. He also stated that if the U.S. citizens wish to continue to proceed with getting a chartered flight, they can be advised on proper procedures to follow. The 3 expats from the U.S. include Estrin, who married a Tongan and holds a valid Tongan passport, Lee L. Parker, Estrin's former spouse, who holds a valid assured income visa that expires in 2024, and the third is Joshua Charles Moore, who first came to Tonga on a visitor's visa in 2004 and currently holds an expired Tongan passport. They also stated that the 3 need to follow proper procedures and process before they can leave the country. He denied any claims of the government trying to detain them here in the kingdom. The Attorney General Office's investigations found that the 3 passengers did not accept the conditions of the current state of emergency here in Tonga, including the condition put forward by the Ministry of Health to use Fomotu International Airport for chartered flights, as this is the only airport or entry for all international flights instead of Lupepa'u Airport in Vava'u. Investigation also states that anyone can leave Tonga for any destination as long as they meet travel and COVID-19 requirements of their destination country. If they do not meet the requirements, then authorities in Tonga will not allow them to depart. Government has not given them any authorization to land a plane in Vava'u during the COVID-19 restrictions. No flight or plane is allowed to land in Tonga without proper authorization granting them to do so. Bosti said the false information presented by these 3 expats on social media are damaging to Tonga and the people.
Tonga's new Police Commissioner Shane McLennan presented his credentials to His Majesty King Tupou VI at the Royal Palace on Thursday, 30th of June 2022. Vaifonua Tupola with the details.
Commissioner Shane McLennan said in a press release he felt deeply honoured and humbled for the private audience with His Majesty King Tupou VI, which presents the opportunity to discuss important matters for Tonga Police and the security of the nation. Since arriving in May, Commissioner McLennan has met with the Prime Minister and Minister for Police, Honourable Hokami Liku, government officials and stakeholders. Commissioner McLennan's leadership style reflected in one of his focus areas of one team, same team, which reinforces the need to work together as a team to serve and keep our communities safe. However, Shane McLennan is the first police commissioner for Tonga from Australia, as the past ones were all from New Zealand. Vaifonua Paula for Radio and Television Tonga News.
Acting Prime Minister Honourable Boasi Day clarified in an interview that claims and rumours about a decrease in the retirement fund for the elderly as well as funds for those living with disabilities are untrue. Mark Ake reports.
Acting Prime Minister Honorable Boss Day said that the retirement funds used to be classified to 5 categories before it was changed to only 2 to make things easier back in July 2020. Once you're 70, you become eligible for the retirement fund. Those aged 70 to 74 receive 70 paanga every month, 75 paanga a month for those aged 75 to 79, 80 paanga for those aged 80 to 84, and 90 paanga for those aged 85 to 89, and 100 paanga for those who are 90 and above. From 2020 to this year, there has been no drop in these rates. In 2021, there were only 2 categories to improve the rates, with 80 paanga a month for those aged 70 to 79. Before it was 70 and 75, now it's 80 paanga. 100 paanga for those who are 80 and above, and this was effective in July of 2021. In 2020, the funds for those living with disabilities was divided into 3 categories. The first category for those living with 1 disability receiving 30 paanga a month. Category 2 has 60 paanga for those living with 2 disabilities, while Category 3 has 90 paanga for those living with 3 disabilities. The categories are decided by the Ministry of Health, who then provide a list to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. In July last year, these 3 categories for the Disability Fund remained, though there was an increase with 50 paanga for Category 1, 80 for Category 2, and 100 for Category 3. Elderlies living with disabilities also have 3 categories with rates depending on the number of disabilities they have and their age.
New Zealand is still in need of more Tongan RSE workers to work in their farms and large fruit companies. This was discovered by the Minister for Internal Affairs, Honourable Sengsta Saulala, and the Minister of Trade and Economic Development, Honourable Dr. Wilami Latu, during their visit to New Zealand. This week, the ministers travelled from Auckland to Tauranga and had a meeting with large fruit companies, Sika Limited in Te Puke and Humes Limited at Katikati. There are Tongan RSE workers working in these 2 companies. The ministers were happy to see Tongans working in these companies and also how they were living. It is understood after meeting with these companies that they wanted to work together with the government of Tonga to solve small problems that happened in the past. After the meeting with Sika Limited and Humes Limited, the 2 ministers went to Whakatu, Napier, to continue meet with Labour Manager of the Mr. Apple Company, Alistair Jamieson, including the CEO of Apples and Pears Industry, Terry Mako, and the CEO of Fawn Hills Contracting Limited in Hastings. Saulala and Dr. Latu were excited to meet Tongans working in these companies. It was a warm event as Tongans shared their life experience of working in New Zealand. It is understood that Tongans who work at these companies are doing their best with their work as they need more Tongans to work in these companies. The ministers encouraged Tongan communities in New Zealand to return back Tongan RSE workers that leave their companies to live with their families there so as to not impact the RSE program because it helps thousands of families and also the development of Tonga. Meanwhile, Saulala and Latu had a meeting in Wellington with the Associate Minister of Foreign Affairs and Pacific Affairs of New Zealand, Alpito William Seal, together with Associate Minister of Economic Development and PESA Plus, Phil Tyford. They approved the requests from the government of Tonga to offer more job opportunities for Tongans in the country besides working in farms and fruit companies. The ministers also visited the Horters Company in Blenheim and the Tongans working there. And the Ministry of Revenue and Customs efforts to make sure each business in Tonga uses cash registers is running smoothly. The ministry enforced the use of the cash register on the 1st of this month. Waiwhanotu Paula with more.
Speaking to Radio Tonga News this morning, Acting CEO of the Ministry of Revenue and Customs, Kilifi Heimuli, said The objective is to ensure that shops present accurate data on tax and revenue that they collect daily from their operation. He added that so far things have been going well, but the only problem is that some businesses don't have access to good internet, which causes the software of some cash registers to suddenly crash. Haimori said they have received complaints from different customers about businesses that don't offer receipts since they don't have cash registers and weren't included in the ministry's program. The ministry calls for more cooperation with the public to ensure this will go well and ensure better transactions for future records. Bye for Latu, Paula for Radio and Television Tonga News.
And that concludes tonight's English news package. But before we part, here's a one final look at tonight's top stories. Acting Prime Minister clarifies that allegations made by 3 U.S. citizens in Wama'o on social media are false and misleading to the public. Tonga Police Commissioner presents credentials to the King, and farmers and large companies in New Zealand still need more Tongans to work for them. And that's it for tonight. Thank you for your company. I'm Ali Situbo. Have a blessed evening.